So I checked it from my side. The audio quality is great. The video might be a little bit slower, but that's fine. The frame rate isn't great, but I'm working. I have these. I have a MacBook Pro, and the problem is I only have 128 gigabytes of hard disk space. So I have to be careful not to put the settings too high because my hard disk will actually fill up way too quickly.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, it won't take too long at that rate.
Yeah, no, I have like 20 gigabytes of space right now, so I don't want to put the audio is great, but I don't want to put the video
Well,
settings any higher.
we don't want to mess with that full node you got synced on that bad boy.
Exactly. So, well, first and foremost, thank you for making the time. It's great.
Absolutely, man.
It's great to actually talk to
Absolutely.
you.
It's been a long time coming. You and I have had a little bit of history on Reddit. I actually still have your postcards you sent to me.
That's
So
wonderful. Did you get all four?
I got all four.
That's
They are.
great. That's
And I,
great.
I keep them right here in my classroom. Hang on to them because when I get done with the concert, I'm going to take the kids on a trip
Yeah,
across the country there with you.
that's
So
wonderful.
I don't want to tell the audience unless you want to.
Oh no,
Uh,
yeah. We'll just I'll just publish from whenever we start. So for the people that are watching or listening, it's like I went on a walking trip in Spain, the north of Spain, for like 5 weeks. Did about 600 miles of walking, and I actually asked like, would you like to get a postcard from me? And Jeremiah just gave me his address, mentioned the children in his school, and said I would like some cards. And so I think I
yeah.
stopped in 3 or 4 places and just sent those cards, and I'm happy that they all arrived. So that's great.
Well, I'm happy you made it across the entire country. Not a lot of people say, "Hey, you know what? I think I'm going to go on a walk today." The last person I saw do that was Forrest Gump.
Yeah. Well, I
How
am.
long? How long of a walk was that?
Yeah, it was about 5 weeks, so 1,000 kilometers or about 600 miles, something like that.
That's
So
tremendous.
it
And
was
now you're
wonderful.
training for marathon.
Yeah, I am. Actually, tomorrow I have a long run, like 16 miles or maybe a little bit more, and I'm looking forward to it. So,
I,
so
my hat's off to you, man. I am not training for a marathon. I did get up and do some sit-ups and push-ups this morning, but that's about it. I'm on spring break here at school, so uh, I'm not. No, I'm not getting up as early as I usually do on the weekdays during the school year. But I'm not running 16 miles. That's
you know,
incredible.
I think the bear market isn't enough of a suffrage, so I just get out and run until it
Ain't
hurts.
ain't that the damn truth? I feel so much better after I run. In light of the bear market, I feel even better. My days are just a lot smoother, just kind of dealing with all that. But
Yeah.
and so we got a bunch of questions that a lot of people have been throwing out there. And by the way, I hope this interview series goes well, and I hope you find some more people that are willing to go public. And you know, this is the trading community, right? So I think it'd be nice to have a nice little interview series with some people on there and get the conversation going and let people on Eth Traders speak their mind as well. I feel like we're a voice too. I mean, we are kind of like the financial supporters of the ecosystem, and we've got people that are invested and developers alike. There's a lot of great people out here. So hats off to you, man.
Yeah, exactly. It was I check the daily far too often, and I quite often I have a genuine laugh or whatever it is, or some great information, and I felt like, man, there's so many nice people in here. Let's just get together and just ask some questions, bring the community a little bit closer that way.
Yeah,
So as this is the first talk I'm actually having, I'm still a little bit unsure about the format, how best to approach it. So what I've done right now, I have grouped some questions from different people,
got it.
so that we avoid too many duplicate answers. And then what I will do is I'll start with 3 or 4 introductory questions, which I will ask anyone or any guest, just to get a brief overview of that person. Then I will ask you some yes and no questions, and then we'll start with the e-trader with the submitted questions, and we'll finish off with some rapid fire questions. We'll see how
That's
long this
perfect.
takes. I have plenty of time. So we'll see. I have no idea. It's about 20, 25 questions. I have no idea how long this will take us. But whenever you feel like this is it, we're done, we're through, then just say so, and we'll see how far we get.
Okay, sounds good.
So let me start with the first question. Like, can you share a little bit about the place where you're sitting right now, about where you are?
I'm in my school building right now. This is where a lot of my videos that I publish on YouTube are made. And the other place is my fire pit. So the reason why I like coming up here to school is the bandwidth is really good, and there's nobody in the school district right now. So I mean, I could probably stream in 4K if I wanted to, but but anyway, yeah, that's it in a nutshell. And what I do is I'm an elementary school music teacher, and I've been I've been doing that for probably 14 years now, and it's what I know, teaching little kids how to play these damn things right here. It's just it's something I enjoy doing, and you get to be the first person to teach somebody a new thing at that age. You're what you do can help inspire kids from a very young age. Even though I only see them, 70 minutes a week or whatever, I try to make things pretty memorable and
how old
make
are
it
the
interesting.
children?
They're 5 to 11 years old. So
Yeah.
basically, kindergarten in the United States starts around age 5, and then 5th grade. So basically the first 6 years of primary school.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your background? You said you've been doing it for 14 years. So what
Been
is your
doing it for
background?
I've been doing it for 14 years. Prior to that, obviously, I went to college, and I'm not the smartest tool in the shed. I actually dropped out of junior college, believe it or not, but went back, and junior college it's a 2-year program, ended up being about 4 years of the best years of my life. And then I went on to Division II. Like, I'm a poster child for cheap schooling, but I walked away with very little debt. During the time, though, I spent a lot of time running a rock band. And the rock band had a horn section. We were a big 7-piece band. We got to open up for like Blood, Sweat, and Tears and the Gin Blossoms. And we did a few things. And I was hoping to get us financed to where we could take it professionally and get out of Kansas and move to the East Coast or the West Coast of the United States, eventually do something in Europe. That's the way a lot of those bands really make it, is that they do a European type of tour, because it can really be a good test bed for the American markets as well. So long story short, I come from live music land, a family of musicians, and then that what they say, those that can't do teach. So now I teach music, and I do professional DJ work for the last 20 years as well. All kinds of events, everything from weddings to corporate events to, for a brief time, I was a mixed martial artist DJ for 2 or 3 big events in Kansas City, and it was a pretty neat experience. So DJing and teaching are my two sources of what I do now, along with family life.
How old are you? By the way, if again, this is kind of hit and miss. If you feel like not answering any question, just say so.
I'll say this. I'm over 40.
That's funny.
I'm over 40. Just you bring up a good point. We don't want people to dox themselves too much, but I've already been hit a couple times, so I'm not terribly worried about it. But yes, over 40.
Sure. So, who do you look up to? And if it's nobody in particular, where do you go for advice, or where do you find some inspiration, or whatever it might be?
In my real life, what do they say? Surround yourself by the best people you can, right? And those people will be a pretty good guiding light. So my dad, my mom, family, obviously. So in real life, who do I look up to? I have a best friend that's a pretty high-ranking officer in the military. I'm friends with the guy that used to be the head of surgery for the local VA hospital. Like, I keep company with people that I feel are really great at what they do, and I've learned from them. As far as in the space, there's quite a good handful of people that I look up to and respect. And it might surprise some people on ETH Trader, some of the people that I also respect that I don't also agree with all the time. And so I feel, and I've always said, especially on ETH Trader, don't dismiss the trolls that are at least well spoken, because sometimes the ones that end up being I won't give away a username. I remember back after the DAO, we had a guy that was posting very good reasons why it was all going to die and go to zero. And then over time, he started looking at what was happening, and then he started posting things that were a lot of good reasons why it wasn't going to zero, right? So he kind of flipped around, but he always look for the people that are well spoken, even if you don't always agree with them, because people change, attitudes change. I think keeping the conversations going. So online, obviously, DC Investor is a big hit for me, because he's one of those guys that what he does in the real world, really you can see it in the way he writes online. And I think the guy's got. I'm just really glad that somebody like him is in the space posting and contributing to the level that he is, because a lot of the guys in the old school have kind of left ETH Trader, and I hope by what you're doing, and I hope by sticking around and trying to do things that are community minded, I hope we can bring some of those people back. But there's a lot of new people that have come in that are really good too, and so. I'd have to say, in your personal life, always gravitate to the people that you admire and respect for what they've done in their lives. Hold them close, and then online, you got to find the people that give you kind of what you need as far as sentiment. Not necessarily that you always agree with it, but at least good quality input. And use Reddit Enhancement Suite if you're not doing it, and tag those people.
Yeah,
tag them.
I started doing that just a few months ago, and I can't believe I must have missed so many people. Now I just tag them and I see their comments. I'm like, I have tags like, this is a nice guy or this is a rational guy, and then I see their posts. I'm like, yeah, right.
Right, and you can save. I go through and save good comments or good posts. I save them so I can pull them up later on. I mean, Reddit Enhancement Suite, I can't stress enough. It is a zoo and a jungle Sorry, I'm at school. You can hear the bell. It can be a zoo. What?
No, I wanted to say, let's use the bell to jump into the yes and no questions, but go on.
Okay, I'll finish up.
No, sure. Take your time.
You gotta be able to. It's kind of like a Rolodex, right? And it's crazy when you go back and look through your friends list on Reddit Enhancement Suite, just how many people stay and how many leave. And then you can start using the colors. I use the colors to kind of gauge like where they are on the spectrum and stuff. It's beautiful, and I think it's completely necessary, especially when the bull returns and we got 10,000 comment dailies again, trying to sort through all of that, because the troll and shill campaigns that are bought and paid for aren't always scams. Some of them are people who are just posting moon content. So we're going to have to watch for everything, in the next bull run. It's hard, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, one final question before we get to the yes and no. Where because I will forget to ask this later on. Where can people learn more about you? Like, do you have a blog, YouTube channel, maybe on Twitter, somewhere else? Where can people reach out to you?
Okay, so obviously JT Nickel on Reddit, at ProDJKC is where I'm at on Twitter. I'm kind of all over the place how often I'm on Twitter. I know a lot of people left Reddit to go to Twitter, but I look at Twitter as being kind of noisy sometimes, and I like Reddit because you can have a long discussion without a bunch of subtweet misinformation stuff. So at ProDJ KC on Twitter, and then my YouTube channel is Jeremiah Nickel. My YouTube channel is a mixed bag. I don't have a separate channel for Ether and a separate channel for family life and a separate channel for goofing off or whatever. It's all me. So the YouTube's a mixed bag of information, but yeah, those are the big three, I think. Yes.
All right. To the yes and no questions. Do you regret holding through 2018?
Does it have to be yes or no? No, I don't regret holding.
By the way, so just for listeners, these are some questions. I actually got them from the questions asked in the thread. So I will mention other people's names when we get to the longer questions, but these are some that I just put in a yes and no format. So is your faith in the system stronger than ever?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Do you hold conversations with your dog?
Yes. Everybody speaks through their pet. Sometimes I talk to my wife through my pet, which is just kind of like a way of like, what is that? How do I put that? It's kind of like, Winnie, don't you think that mom should be, doing this, or this? And then she'll respond back to Winnie talking to me, right? So Winnie's the name of our dog. She's a cockapoo. But yeah, everybody talks. I have conversation with my dog.
In screenwriting, I did a screenwriting course, and they teach you about this thing called the Sprechhund, which is literally the dog you talk to, which is exactly what you're describing. You use something. It's like if you like 1984, the George Orwell book. He actually uses his notebook to tell the story. So the notebook in this case is what the dog is the role the dog is fulfilling
Oh,
in your relationship. That's funny. Um, have you ever met Vitalik?
no,
Gavin?
nope.
Andreas? And I suppose this is Andreas Antonopoulos?
Yeah, no, but I have invited him to Kansas City. I've invited all those guys to Kansas City for what I always affectionately refer to as DevCon 7.
There's a question about DEFCON 7.
Oh
Let's see.
gosh.
Are you still keto?
No, but I want to be. I liked it. The problem was my family always jokes that if JT doesn't cook, we don't eat. And so when I was on keto, it was a whole lot of cottage cheese and bacon and avocados and cheese slices and some mixed nuts or something. But they didn't. No, they did not support me in that endeavor. But hey, if I get fat enough, they'll put me back on it.
Eh, Talking about your family, is any of your family interested in crypto?
I do have family members invested. They they are not in the weeds day to day like I am, and the rest of my family knows that I'm in it, but I don't talk about it. There was obviously a time, 3, 4 years ago when I would talk about it, and I was kind of the annoying crypto nerd uncle or whatever in the family, and so I just don't, unless they bring it up, and then even then I still try to just keep it brief and keep it short. Yeah, it's doing okay, and leave it at that. And everybody that's invested is fine. It's all a long game for us anyway. So, yeah.
All right, let's go to the submitted questions, and I will read the usernames. I'll try and read them correctly. They're not all that easy. So let's start with the user Trent Van Epps, because you
Yeah.
mentioned you would really like to ask or answer his question. So I'll just read his question, which was, what was the toughest time for the sub, in your opinion, both as a moderator and as a general community member? Either a single event, a particular prize, certain people, etc. Conversely, what times have you enjoyed your role as mod? What times have you enjoyed your role as moderator? Yeah.
Toughest time as moderator. I've had 3 experiences, very distinct experiences with people who were suicidal. In one particular instance, I found this user to be kind of typing in a way that was kind of like mumbling, and I asked if he was okay, and then the response was kind of mumbling or whatever. And one of my other friends on ETHTrader, I knew he was going to be up at night around that time, and I texted him. I said, I need you to jump on the computer real quick. And he's a medical doctor, my friend is. And he took a look at it, and he goes, yeah. He's like, something's not right there. And so I figured out through another user that knew the guy that was having troubles in real life, and they got to him in real life. He was OD'd. And so, yeah, I mean, that was a real instance of somebody checking out on my watch, on our watch. I should also say, as a moderator, I feel like I'm a community member first, and I want everybody to kind of treat each other as if we're all in the same room. Another extremely difficult time was like moving down from probably $600 down to the easy peasy line at 324, whatever. That whole drop, you could just see just people just sloughing off. And it was just, there were people that were invested way too much, way up high. And, there's a lot of visible pain there. You could just read it on the dailies back then.
I think
Then
was that around the period when Bitcoin broke from 6,000 to 3,000 as well?
Yeah, it was all through that mess.
Yeah.
And then to see the easy peasy line at 324, then eventually drop down to 80. And the fact that he's not on there, whatever. So easy peasy. I was like, in some ways it was very spamish, and how often he would post it, and whether you're right or you're wrong, he was never bannable, right? It was never a thing that could be bannable because we're into shit posts and memes and all that. So pardon my language, but that was pretty tough to see the euphoria going in the wrong direction, and a lot of people losing the notional amounts of money. To sit there as a moderator on the way up with the euphoria and on the way down with the blood in the streets was difficult, and it's historical. I mean, it really is a historical drop from all-time high in since the dawn of Bitcoin, really, to get that much drop across the board. So yeah, memorable times as a moderator, as far as the kind of the bad drops there, and trying to help people through that, but we can't really help. It's just the only thing we can do as moderators is I was always really let down when people would come in there like Wall Street Bets and post the suicide hotline numbers and try to really rib people. And I never want to be a Wall Street Bets type of sub. I wouldn't make it. And so, that's kind of one of those were dark days. I think post DAO was a dark day. I was not a moderator at that time, but that being said, talking about conversely, some of the best times in the sub, and that big drop from the DAO, when the price went below like $6 or something, I called one of my friends because I was excited that we finally were going to hit bottom. I had a feeling, and Mr. Yukon C, he threw that gif out there of Vince McMahon in the WWE with the price exploding, or bouncing really big from $5.80. I'll never forget. That was a time when I was sitting there at the computer. It was basically this. There's like three big things. This $80 hit recently, the post DAO when we hit $5.80, and then prior to that was when Bitcoin capitulated down to $156. I don't know if anybody else remembers that. Those three instances, like this one at 80 just recently, felt in a lot of ways just like that. And I bought each time. And I remember calling my friend, like, can you believe this right now? The volume was insane down there, and it was like, man, we were going to wedge out of this thing. Finally, my buddy on the phone, I won't reveal his username, he goes, JT, I backed up the truck. It was like 3 a.m. and oh my God. But anyway, so that was a memorable time just as a community member. Yeah, so I think the best times are when people are coming into our sub because they were kind of sick and tired of the censorship over the R Bitcoin subreddit and the sense of community that we have as investors. But what we also had kind of a mix of developers that would stop in every now and then, although there's clearly a lot different landscape at the moment with everything going on. But I think the best days are still ahead of us. I'm eternally optimistic.
I remember what you said about the darker moments. I remember reading a post from a guy, and he, during that $600 to $300 decline, his CDP got liquidated, and he lost I think half his stack, and it was in the thousands of ethers. And I was calculating in my mind, it's like this guy had like millions of dollars just a few months ago, and now he just lost like 50% of his stack or whatever it turned out to be. And I'm like, man, the notional
losses people have incurred is incredible. Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to look at the biggest guys in the space. Joseph Lubin, it was touted as, this big thing when all those people were laid off from Consensus. And in my mind, it was like they only laid off that many people at Consensus.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, look at it, man. Like when the price goes down 95% in a year and they only laid off that many people, even though it was a ton of folks. And we talked to a few of them on the subreddit, and I feel devastated for them. But the industry is going to churn people in and spit them right back out until we can get some stablecoin action like DAI making paychecks happen. So it is certainly the Wild West, but yeah, think about those guys that have all those notional losses in the 10-figure range, or dare I say 11-figure range for some.
I can't even
Isn't that
imagine.
crazy to think about?
Yeah.
It's all perspective. But that's the very top of the top, bringing Joe Lubin out like that. But man, I respect people that are employed right now. I'm going to go off the rails just for a second. There are kids being born today that will never not use blockchain. And there are people working right now straight out of high school that will never do another career path other than something that involves with blockchain. That's a thing that could be a reality. And that when you're seeing a burgeoning industry like this, and to know that those two things are completely possible, it's a mind blow.
I think I pronounce it like Ruvalm. He's one of the new moderators or one
I
of
always
the
say,
trainees.
I always say, "Are you Valm?"
Are you Valm? It's
But
actually
it's Ruvalm. It's Ruvalm. Yes, he's
it's
a great
actually
guy.
funny. I never thought of Easy Peasy. I never read it. So when you said that Easy Peasy, I'm like, yeah, I just read EZ PZ in my native language. So Ruvalm, I have no idea how to pronounce it, but Are you Valm or whatever. But he actually shared two articles. The blockchain, they were both from ribbonfarm.com, and one was the blockchain man, but there was another one, and it's to your point about those people being born right now, or people going into the ecosystem and never possibly never even leaving it again. And it was a 40-page article, but it was wonderful about how far this could go. So I will post it for people interested. I will post it in the links and in the thread. But it was really interesting to just see like we're at the dawn, or we could possibly be at the dawn of something big, which is quite amazing.
Yeah,
I will.
definitely.
Trent asked one more question. So he asked what times you enjoyed the most, and then he also asked, what can we do to make these times happen more frequently, or what can we do to strengthen the community?
We're doing it right now. I think the more people get out there and do conversations, I love voice and video, for instance. I think also is trying to be very well read, and type something longer than a sentence when you come in. The community used to be paragraphs. The daily used to be, except for the moon times. And then the moon times were a troll box, and the really bad bear times were a troll box. But when I look at people that post very thought-provoking things, it's usually going to be at least a paragraph. That doesn't mean you got to, just spew out a bunch of stuff and hope something sticks. I've been guilty of that, I'll be honest. But so anything that you can do to bring the human to the table, I think is a big key. That's the spirit of ETH Trader. That's what it used to be. I feel like we're there. We just got to get back to some kind of price that people can breathe a little bit. And I think right now we're churning, right? Everything's.
I would say that our haikus are improving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when he started the user single state serenity, I was like, this is weird, but he's actually I had some decent laughs. I mean, this is not maybe not the quality content, the paragraph type kind of content, but it is funny in a way. It builds the you see the comments and people are like, this is your best one so far, and it's kind of like, yeah, this is part of something we're building. In any case, let me jump over to Are-You Valms, or however I pronounce it, to Ruvalm's questions, because he submitted some as well. If I understand correctly, he's currently one of the trainees, so to say. He'll be a new moderator.
Yes, he's been around the space for a long time. He's also in some other social networks, and I've been kind of watching him as a contributor first and a moderator second in these other communities. He does a wonderful job. And Cut Snake is the other new moderator, and Blockchain Unchained. And I have not slept better in the last 2 weeks than I have now, because they have done such a fantastic job, and they are in there all the time, which is exactly what we need, I think, for good moderation. But yes, so yeah, Ari Valm is doing great. And he's a new moderator, and I just couldn't ask for a better crew right now.
So he submitted some moderating questions or questions about you as a moderator. So the first one was, what is the most memorable of your moderation actions here on ETH Trader? Maybe you already touched a little bit on it, but
yeah, we kind of touched that a little bit. Just some of the most memorable, sadly, are some of the darker moments. But yeah.
If you could implement one new sub rule, let's call it rule number 11, what would it be?
Man, that's a tricky question. I don't want to add more rules. I don't know if I don't think I could add another rule at this point. I think we kind of got any additional rules could be already covered by what we have. Yeah, it's interesting though. I'd have to think a little bit harder on that. I may have to ask him privately. What did you mean by rule number 11?
Here's an easier question. Do you see yourself moderating ETH Trader in 5 years?
Yeah, I have no reason to go anywhere. I enjoy the community. I do know that as time goes on, well, let me put it this way. As soon as it's a conflict of interest for me to be up there, I'll see myself out the door. I won't wait for a community to kick me out, right? Let's say I sold off everything and went into a different project or whatever. I'll see myself out the door the day that happens. Do I see myself here in 5 years? Yeah, absolutely. I have no reason to go anywhere. I love what we have. It's hard to build a community this special, and I believe that. I think are there growing pains? Yeah. Does ETH Trader change colors a little bit as time rolls on? Yeah, we're evolving, right? We're evolving. But
so is the entire space.
Yeah, the whole space is evolving as well. So, I mean, yeah, as long as it's relevant for me to be here, I'll be here. I think it's going to be a good, strong moderation team. My wife says I'm online too much. She's probably right about that. So it might be that my role changes a little bit as time goes on. But I plan on being here.
What was the Ether or Ethereum bullish trend that you've enjoyed the most in our sub?
Say that again?
What was the bullish trend that you enjoyed the most? Was it the post DAO maybe that you mentioned before?
The bullish trend I enjoyed the most. I think the first time that we hit $420 was perplexingly exciting for me.
So like that was August or something, 2017 or
yeah, it was the first time we hit $420. I think was in July or something. Yeah. I can't remember, but I was sitting at a lake house looking at my phone, and I was just like, "What is this? What? This doesn't happen to people like me, you know?" And then it's like, yeah, it does. I try to rationalize the euphoria, right? Like, of course it happens to people. We're awesome, you know. And now it's like, dang. I think the space would be a lot more calmer if we could just get back to that again and just hang on to that for a year. I will say this, yeah, that was a pretty euphoric moment because, you know, it was showing the promise of, at least from a price perspective, what's possible, you know. And then when it went all the way up to 1,200 or 1,400, everybody was convinced. Not everybody. A lot of people were convinced, well, we'll never be under 800 again. We'll never be under 700 again.
Did you see that photo? There was this guy. He had like 5 or whatever 10 bottles of champagne.
Yes.
And he had these Post-its with $1,500, $1,600, and he would pop a bottle of champagne for every $100. It would go up, and that was hilarious when he posted that. It was Moet or something, like a decent champagne brand. I'm like, that's hilarious.
Yeah. So when it went up there, you know, for a variety of reasons, I didn't sell. It wasn't all my fault. I didn't sell. I had been hacked and my accounts were screwed up, and I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna have to ride this one off to the sunset. But yeah, it was a pretty incredible time. But yeah, definitely the bull up to 420 was just like kicking down the door. We have arrived, you know, like we are here to stay.
So another question you asked, and I don't know if this is about a uptrend or a downtrend, but he asks if there was any price action and consequent reactions in our sub that make you wouldn't want to be a moderator anymore. So I don't know if he's talking about uptrend or downtrend, but was there something that didn't want to make you moderate the sub anymore? price wise?
There were, yeah, I bring it up again, the easy peasy line, the 324. That was when you really, what I felt like there's no way I could not moderate. Let me put it the other way. Like, that was so damn depressing to see that line break. First of all, from the meme standpoint, it was genius, right? Dude nailed it. Nobody, probably including Easy Peasy, ever thought it would get as bad as it did. And here we are at a hopeful 133 US dollars or whatever the price is. Hell, we've been on here for 20 minutes. It could be 140 or 120 by now. We don't know. But no, I would never not. There wasn't a time where I didn't want to moderate anymore. It has to get a whole lot more weird than this to ever have me go away. And by virtue of adding 3 good solid moderators, it's not an easy job. In fact, one of the new moderators that got on board, we always told it was David Hoffman. He runs a good podcast. We always told the new moderators, look, you can walk at any time, because once you get to see from behind the curtain a little bit of what we have to deal with, you may not want to do it. And David's like, there's no way. There's no way that I'm going to be able to commit the time to do this properly, which he's a true gentleman. Like, the dude's a real gentleman. He just said, I'm going to quietly, exit. And I said, that's fine. And I appreciate you for being honest about it. Cause it's pretty overwhelming. And when we were ebbing and flowing through that easy peasy line, and then finally when it just completely dumped, a lot of people a lot of sour grapes, man. It'd be hard to sit there and you have to go after trolls during that time, because there's people that are just trying to feed the blood into the streets as hard as they can, because they're shorting the shit out of it.
I remember, by the way, when it broke the line, the $324, that was like, whoa. But the weeks leading up to that, when it was going down like 500, 450, and you could see the comments like, we're getting like this isn't going the right direction, and like 350 or something. And you could see, if you would reread those dailies, it is quite hilarious hilarious. It wasn't great, but with the benefit of hindsight, it was quite funny to actually see us go from disbelief to this is really happening. And there was no really big technical fundamental reason, right? It wasn't like there was a DAO, right? It wasn't a DAO hack. They people want to try to point at whatever. It's just, we were overpriced. Bitcoin was overpriced. We were overpriced. Careful what you wish for when the institutions get involved, right? Because everybody thinks, the institutions are coming. Yeah, they can leverage any type of pain they want on this market with a snap and crush it just to get it to where they want to participate. So it's always kind of like, I don't know, the space is just unregulated, and a lot of people say good, and some people say it's bad. But the one thing we can all agree on, it's early. Yeah,
it's early.
So, commenting on that, and this is Ruval's last question. He asks, how much did your work as a moderator increase from January 17 to May or June 17, when the subscribers count went up like tenfold or something or whatever?
Crushing. I mean, there was so many reports. I'm saying there were months. When you look at a moderator log, and it'll show like comment removed by JT Nickel or comment approved or whatever. So we had a lot of people that were new investors that came in with good, genuine questions, and I always want each trader to be a good teacher. And so they didn't have the karma and age requirement. They didn't have 20 karma and a 10-day-old account. And so I would manually approve it. Then I would write a message saying, hey, your account needs 20 karma. Your account age is 8 days. In a couple more days, you'll stay visible. But can we at least help this guy get some karma so he'll stay visible? And I'm sure many of you guys saw those messages. So first of all, there was a action click to approve the message. And then I had to type something out or mumble into my phone to where it would type for me and then click send. So that's like 2 actions in one, but the moderator log will show 1. Now, there was times when we would have 10,000 comment daily or whatever, plus the posts of the ICOs and everything else. And I'm trying to mop up all that along with the other mods that are really active. Long story short, there were days or months where we had 1,000 actions a moderator, or hundreds at least. I mean, I could sit down and work for a solid hour and knock down some of the queue, but man, it was crazy trying to keep up. Yeah. So I'm saying when the next bull comes, that's why I wanted to add 3 more moderators, and then eventually maybe even more. We got to have active mods. So, and they are.
So user JKKR asks how were you first introduced to Ethereum?
Well, so I was in Bitcoin land, and I watched Rise and Rise of Bitcoin, which is a really good documentary if you haven't seen it. And that was back when Bitcoin was like $600. And there was this little skinny kid out at a camping site that talked on camera for maybe 15 seconds. And I was like, man, look how young he is. He started talking. I'm like, and the way he talked and the manner, it was Vitalik. And I remember just being so struck by the way he spoke and was talking about working for Bitcoin Magazine and just some of the history with that. And then later on, I heard that he was going to be working with some other developers, Hoskinson and Wood, and it was a total of like 8 of them, I think, that were going to put together this new computer, a world computer called Ethereum. And immediately I was struck. I did not get in on the ICO. I did afterwards, though. As soon as it got on the exchanges, I picked up some.
So Rhetorical, I like him. User Rhetorical.
Yeah, I do too. You got to res tag him, man. He's a good cat.
Yeah, I tagged him. I think I tagged him as a nice guy. I'm not sure. I should check it, but he's funny. He asks, what's the latest on DEF CON 7 and how can I help?
So DEF CON 7 is this thing I've been throwing around since DEF CON 2, I think. Just like DEF CON 7, Kansas City, the KC meetup on the pork chain. And so it's one of those deals where it's like Kansas City is not going to be probably hosting a developers conference, although it certainly could. I'm being serious when I say it's centrally located in the United States. It's cheap to fly in. It does, international travel is going to be different because of connecting flights. So as far as the airport goes, hopefully when they get the new airport built here by DEF CON 7, it'll be direct nonstop international flights. We'll see what happens. Anyway, long story short, I have all the AV people, all the, if we need lighting and screens and all that stuff, I have all that stuff I can get for a pretty good deal. And so now it's just a matter of find an expo hall, Overland Park Convention Center, and let the foundation team, whoever organizes events, come in, and then I can organize some local talent, as far as DJ goes. And I think it'd be fun. I don't know how anybody else can help with that right now because, I tried putting a call into Vitalik and there's no answer. But
his email address is on his Twitter feed. I think it's noreply@buterin.com. Maybe try and.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the one I used.
Yeah, maybe try and send an email there. So user Slay the Beast wrote something as well. Let me read it. He wrote, "You've been here a while, probably longer than most. In what notable ways have you seen the ETHrader community change as the Ethereum blockchain has matured?" You already touched a little bit on that, but maybe you want to add something to that. Or wait, let me ask or read another question you asked, which is, what would you like to see more or less of in the community over the next 2 years?
Wow, notable change. I tell you what, I feel like ETHtrader had the reputation for having a lot of trolls in it. Obviously it's a trading sub. You're going to have some of that. I will say this, and I don't want to go in depth on it because I don't want to politically, mess with this too much. But when the whole situation with Afri went down and Ryan, I felt like a lot of the contention was over on the technology sub on it, our Ethereum. And I think ETHtrader did a hell of a good job throughout that, being above board. There are serious questions. I get it. But really trying, I just felt like we were better behaved
Yeah.
And I politically, like I said, I don't want to get into it too much. All I want to say is be good. Just be as good as you can. And I know people pop off at the mouth, and we're going to have some of that. But if you can just continue to frame your argument into a good debate, sensible questions without personal attacks. I'm not talking about just developers. I'm saying the community members in eTrader as well. Be good to each other the best you can. You can be pissed off. You can have an axe to grind. But if you could just speak through good observation and frame your context of your arguments the best that you can, and kind of let people sort things out. Doesn't mean you're always going to agree, whatever. But at the end of the day, try to treat each other as if you're in the same room. Okay. You wouldn't kick down the door with the room full of people in it and start, yelling obscenities and put personal put downs, right? So all I could ask for the community moving forward is take the high road whenever possible. That doesn't mean don't form a good argument. That doesn't mean to roll over. I'm just saying the way you construct things, the way you type things, words mean things, and the internet won't forget. Okay. So yeah, just keep being the best version that you can. And this is just my opinion, and this is kind of my take on things. And I'm not a perfect person either, but I think we can all try, moving forward to do the best we can. This is what happens when you see a community that's down 90% on their investment. You're just going to have issues. And I feel like we've done a pretty good job.
I've often thought, like, for being down 95%, people are still quite they're still quite positive.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see the moderator logs. I don't have a look at it, so I don't know what's really going down by the screen. But what I see is quite positive.
To your point, they really are, and I think it's because once the price either A, capitulated people to never come back again, which it did, there's no question. And B, once the trolls got all their energy out, when it finally hit 80, there's nothing left to say right now. And so it's been really quiet. We've had these 500 comment days. The moderator queue is easily maintained now that we have a good number of moderators, but we're going to be able to grow, as a moderator team. We're going to be able to grow with the community as it ramps up again. Again, my opinion, I think we're going to ramp up again. We're going to get a new bull market that'll look different than the last one, that looked different than the one before that. Right. So it's going to be interesting to see how the community responds to that. And I hope that now that we'll be some kind of community that'll be, coming up in 2020 will be a 5-year-old community. Well, 5 years old looks a lot different than the first year. And, 6, 7 years old looks different than 5, right? It looks different than it is now. It's going to change. And I think it's going to change for the better. And there's going to be a certain amount of like, the investment community is really kind of intertwined with the development community in a weird way. We're a smart contract platform where price and programming kind of meet, and so we have a very specific kind of group of people that visit our sub, and I think we're going to have people debating, and I want debate. I think good, lively debate is a good thing. So that doesn't mean be nice to Ripple, okay? I'm just saying be nice to Ethereum and the tokens underneath it. I had to throw that in. Just because we get brigaded. You want to talk about being brigaded by other entities? I can say that one for sure. That was sloppy there for a while, but anyway.
By the way, he asked about your views on the next 2 years. Do you expect anything significant to happen in the next 2 years? When you mentioned there will be a next bull run, do you expect something like that, or a next influx of people, or whatever it might be?
Well, Uncle Joe Lubin said 2 years we'll have millions of transactions per second. I'm just in my mind, I'm like weeks, not months.
Yeah, exactly. Uncle Lubin said we had futures in a few weeks.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. 2 years from now may not look. It may not look exponentially different as far as the core protocol goes. I don't know. I do think that some of the DApps that are coming out, the DApps that are going to be going live, like Maker and Dai, that can run on Ethereum 1.0 now, and some of the other scaling solutions that can happen now. I think probably the most significant change in the next 2 years is going to be in those spaces there where we start to see the likes of Samsung. You know, they've got the wallet integrated on the phone. You can't tell me that 2 years from now isn't going to be significantly different. I just don't know if it'll be different in the way, the core protocol, Ethereum 2.0 and all that. But it's all clicking along. I mean, it just is. It's quietly humming along, it looks like. So I don't know. I think it's going to be amazing.
I think just before we started this call, I made a comment. Somebody posted this Joseph Lubin talk or his prediction about the 2 million transactions per second or the whatever in 2 years. And I commented, like, I'm going to call my dog Joseph Lubin because 1 year for me is 7 for him. And it's like,
right.
and I thought about the weeks, not months meme, which is it's so funny. Yeah, I just keep on coming back to it. It's so funny.
Yeah, people make mistakes.
I wonder, but I wonder though if he's aware of the meme. I wonder if he's aware of the fact that it's a running guy. Or, I don't know.
I guarantee you he does. I guarantee he has to know. It's probably something that goes around the office cooler, at consensus. I mean, people he can own that.
Maybe see if I can ask him someday. Okay, so user SoupDizzle1 asks, what's your go-to Kansas City style barbecue rub recipe?
All right. Take notes, kids. I'm going to teach you how to make rub. All right. So there is no, in my book, there is no like Kansas City style rub other than I like it a little sweet. So what I do is I do basically half salts and herbs, all right, and spices, and the other half is sugar. And I normally just use white granulated sugar. So among other ingredients, I'll try to do them all for you though. Paprika, garlic powder, onion powder, regular old table salt. You don't have to do kosher or anything like that. Mustard powder. And then sometimes I'll grind up ancho chilies or any kind of Mexican dried chili just to add a little bit of a chili pepper flavor. But I use real peppers, de-seed them, and then hit them in a bullet or a coffee grinder. And then, oh gosh, it goes on from there. You can kind of variate the spices a little bit. But then I also like to add a cumin. So that's kind of a Mexican type of spice, or Spanish even probably. Cumin, coriander, which is like cilantro or whatever, dried, and that's kind of like an herb side. And then I just do white granulated sugar. And then as far as rubbing meat, so like for a pork butt or a pork shoulder, you want to kind of cut off some of the fat, kind of dry it off with some paper towels, and then I'll take that mixture of rub and I'll put it in a syringe with apple juice, and I'll inject it all through the pork butt or pork shoulder or whatever pork I'm doing. And then I cover that pork shoulder butt in yellow mustard, and then I apply the rub, and then I let it sit overnight. And then once I get all that done and it's ready to go on the smoker, I may put it on the smoker at like 3 or 4 in the morning. And that thing's not even going to get done until 6, 7, 8 o'clock the following, the afternoon, right? So about 16 hours depending on that. But yeah, the rub recipe, I have a pretty standard rub recipe, and that one's easy. Anybody can make it. Everybody should try to make it. If you want to do barbecue, you should learn how to make your own rub. Because of what you pay for in the bottle is fine, and there's some good stuff out there, but just the process of making it yourself, it's pretty cheap to buy those seasonings in bulk.
There's a follow-up question from user 10239084. What's your favorite meat to cook? What's your favorite meat to cook?
Okay, I would have to probably say pork butt, pork shoulder. It's pretty foolproof. It's a pleaser. And then once best way I love to serve that is on a toasted hoagie roll. So the pork goes in a toasted hoagie, which is like kind of a sandwich roll, and then coleslaw, and then I use extra spicy barbecue sauce on it, and that's called a Memphis Po' Boy sandwich. So yeah, I'd say pulled pork is my favorite, although I like to do them all.
Yeah, I noticed this whenever I make pork, it's it's very hard to go wrong with pork. Whereas if you make whatever steak or even roast beef or things like that, they're a little bit more delicate. You have to pay more attention. Whereas pork, you can just leave it there.
The hardest thing for me to get, but it's easy for me now, is if you ever get the opportunity to smoke a full brisket, knowing how to trim a brisket, because that's a big chunk of meat, and it can be pretty expensive as well. But once you figure out how to do brisket, it's easy. But getting started with that was a challenge, because you got to have a very good temperature control, and you got to know exactly when to pull it and wrap it, everything like that. Ribs, I'm not a rib guy. I'm not great at doing ribs. I can do them. I just feel like it's mostly bones and fat. And I mean, it's good. I like it, but it's not my go-to. So yeah, pulled pork. But I do a smoked chicken, a really good smoked chicken recipe that uses a whole different style of rub, and it's all Indian-based seasoning. So cardamom and allspice and nutmeg. That's the rub for the dark meat chicken. And then I pull a street taco out of that with pico de gallo and cilantro, and then I make a cream sauce out of coconut cream and almond milk and heavy whipping cream. So you get this smoky Indian flavor with this wild cream sauce on the pico de gallo, like corn tortilla taco, and that's probably my favorite recipe that I do.
In terms of, this is my personal question that just popped up. In terms of dollars per ether, at what point can we do a Kansas City style barbecue in Kansas City? It's like,
but I want to do DEFCON 7, and then I'll call my people to come do the food trucks.
all right. DEFCON 7 will have some nice flavored meat, pulled pork.
Hey, if you ever come to the States, man, look me up. All right. If for some reason you end up in Kansas City somehow, just look me up. We'll figure something out.
If I end up in Kansas City for some reason, and
you're probably gonna run across the United States, isn't that the goal here?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. By the way, the same guy, he also asked. So now that we were talking about Kansas City, he asked favorite things to check out or to do in Kansas City.
I know we're talking food. I'm telling you, Kansas City's a food town. There's a good list of restaurants: Q39, the Rib Crib, Gates, Arthur Bryant's, Rib Shack, RJ's Barbecue Shack, as far as like food places go. If you want good Kansas City barbecue, things to do: the the National World War I Museum is here. We've also got the Nelson Atkins Museum of Art, Worlds of Fun. There's a lot of attractions in Kansas City. It's not a huge metropolitan area.
How many people live in Kansas City?
I would say the metro in total 2.5 million, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's quite big.
But like Kansas City sits on the state line, right? So Kansas City, Kansas has like 500,000 people, suburbs and everything. And then Kansas City, Missouri is like the 2 million side. So, the Power and Light District downtown's a lot of fun. We actually do have a light rail car now that goes along Power and Light up through the different areas of town. There's a good art district here. Like Kansas City's a cool spot. And I know it's a flyover state and everything like that, but a lot of the people that I know that have come and visited it, there's people that are kind of moving here, right? The people are nice, and it's a pretty welcoming town, depending on, the neighborhoods. Obviously, you got to be smart about where you go, but yeah, it's got a lot of good things going on. But yeah, I'd say if you're coming to Kansas City, there's a short list of restaurants that I can provide you.
Great. So user Chess Smith, I think he's working on ETHUB right now. He asks if there are any ETH traders that you haven't heard from in a while and that you wish would come back to the daily. Let's see. Yeah, that was his question.
Yeah, there's a pretty strong list of people that I know. I do keep in touch with a lot of the guys that are from the old school, and I've they have kind of gravitated more towards Twitter. They're still in the space. They're still doing fine. Every now and then they pop back over to ETH Trader, but there was just pretty fundamental shift to see, them go to Twitter or other, whatever Slack channels or Telegram or Discord there might be. And so I keep in touch with quite a few of them. I feel like some of the guys are gone because they're gone. They moved on to greener pastures. I won't name names. One of the guys I know pulled out of crypto almost entirely, if not 100%, and has another business with the money he made. So, you know, I can't fault people. There's no point in faulting people. Like if they made a fortune and they want to open up a restaurant or they want to go into another line of work, that's perfect, right? No one should be beholden to this, you know, this investment if it doesn't line up with kind of other life goals that are going on. So yeah, I miss hearing from Ice Auger. Ice Auger was a cat that was in there in the early days that would people talk about people gilding the daily. That boy went through and gilded every comment. And I miss seeing him around. I know he's still around, but he's not on that trader anymore. Hodler's gone. He was another good cat. He's still around, but he's not on there anymore. I always loved his take on things. But yeah, I mean, once you start doing Reddit enhancement suite and you start tagging some people, and then you let some time pass and you go back through and you start, what are these guys up to? Where have they been? Right. And then you find out, oh man, they're way into EOS right now. You know, it's like, so,
yes,
you know, everybody's got a different avenue.
I saw a prediction like that, something like that. The guy who predicted like the next year, like exactly on spot, and then you go through his histories, like completely went the ETC side. It's like, yeah, completely went with Ethereum Classic. And it's like,
and
those
you
kind of
know,
stories. And they're
you
great.
know,
I mean,
there's no right or wrong, and well, that's just wrong. But I mean, you know, I mean, who am I to judge, right? I'm the maximalist. I am. I mean, this is all I hold, right? I hold this, and I have, you know, some other bags of ERC20. I'm not going to shill here because then people will think, oh, I'm just shilling it. But, you know, this is my ecosystem. This is what works for me. You know, and if I could take the blinders off, maybe I'd find something else, but I don't have time for that. I'm so deep in the weeds of being a moderator and teaching and DJing and family life. It's like, no, this is good. I'm happy here. And so I figured out a long time ago, the moment you think the grass is greener on the other side of the fence is when you sold half your stack at $2.50, right? So that happens. And that I saw people that were completely out before the big run up. Once we hit like $20, they sold everything. Like, this is absurd. It shouldn't be priced this much or whatever. And then they stuck around when it got over 100, and they became a troll at that point, because then it was just like they were married to the bad decision, right? And in hindsight, same way on the way down. I could have done more to sell on the way down. Do I regret it? No. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. I just really like the technology. I think it's fun playing around with all the different projects that are there. I mean, the world is opening up.
I thought because there was some discussion between the Ethereum and the ETHRader subreddit in the last few weeks, or about the governance and about everything that went down with Afri and Ryan. But what I did think about was that the ETHRader, as far as I know, was the first subreddit to ever tokenize karma points with the whole donut thing. I'm like, there was actually for a while a market selling and buying donuts. And I'm like, that's quite amazing that something actually came bottom up, and it just existed for a moment. And I thought that was quite nice, just to see how those things exist or come into being. Let me, Jasmine asked another question as well. You put it in a funny way. When you've had a day where Redditors or students test your patience, what do you do to remain calm, blow off steam, or unwind?
Well, exercise and beer. I really like beer. Both of those don't go well together, though.
Yeah, chronologically or how?
Yeah, right. One before the other. Although I did see somebody set the world record for the fastest beer mile. Have you ever seen that guy? He ran a 4-minute beer mile. You have to drink a beer every lap. He ran it was like a 4-minute, 20-second beer mile.
Do you know, I don't remember if it's Germany, but I've seen people do this. So basically, I think it's some college prank or whatever.
It has to be.
You have to do a beer run. And the thing is that you have to run like, I don't know, 10 kilometers, and you get like whatever 30 bottles of beer, and you can even you can choose, either you run and you drink it in the end, or you just drink it up front, or you just drink it but the point is you have to get there after whatever 5-6 miles, and you have to drink all the beer. And it's funny to watch those people, because some are like, think they're smart, they drink like liters of beer and then start running, and then others do it the other way around. It's quite funny to see.
God, no, that sounds like a terrible idea. But going back to his question, what do I do? Well, first of all, how you react is important, and it's all about tone. And I'm not always the best judge. Like yesterday, a deal came up. I'm not always the best judge of character when somebody comes in the sub and they post something that looks like FUD and they put some links there. And this happened to me yesterday, where I thought that the guy had only been in our sub for his first comment was this, because the rest of his comments look like Bitcoin markets. And immediately I get kind of triggered by that. But I was wrong. He actually posted one other comment at the beginning of opening that account. So technically I was wrong. But yeah, so when the Chaz was saying students, I don't always assume that people who act childish online are actually children. I think anybody of any age could be downright rude and nasty. And so this notion, sometimes I hear people that are kind of shouting down the troll saying, well, they're just probably kids in their mom's basement or students at a university or whatever. It's like, no, I don't always think it's the case. I think some people are just crappy. It doesn't matter what their age is. And when you really get down to brass tacks, it's the youth of a project that are running it, not a whole lot of people above 40 like me. And so trolls come in all different flavors, and I think it's just all about trying to be a teacher. And I have tried my best, to be as patient as I can, and most of the time it works out. It just works out where you got to warm people up a little bit. Hey man, you don't have to act like that, because I'm not a real heavy-handed moderator, as you could tell. I mean, I go after the people that are, obviously trying to do harm. But yes, this idea of how do you react, how do you unwind? Sometimes it's just be a good teacher, and then make sure you exercise.
Red Bull at Work asks, what are some of the other crypto-related YouTube channels you subscribe to?
First of all, Red Bull at Work he's a great user too. Really good dude. I jump every time, it's not so much YouTube channels. But if Mr. Yukon C posts a video, I sit up and listen. I credit him with a lot of reasons I got into the space to begin with as a miner. Mr. Yukon C, people that I also follow, ETHUB.io, Evan Van Ness, Week in Ethereum, Laura Shin, the Unchained podcast, Epicenter Bitcoin, if I get time to listen to it, and Omar Baum. Every now and then I drop in and hear what he's talking about. I know some people either hate him or love him, but the guy's been here since 2015. I'm gonna defend him just on that notion right there, because I know a lot of people have strong opinions about him because of whatever side projects or whatever. I don't care. He's consistent. He's always on. He's in the space, and every now and then when he covers Ethereum in particular, I like to see, what comes of it, because he does bring a lot of people to the table. He's a pretty popular YouTuber. Other than that, and there, obviously Reddit, but I am so in the weeds with day-to-day stuff on ETH Trader that honestly I don't get to go out and watch as much stuff as I want, because if I do it in headphones around the house, my family looks at me weird. And if I do it through the TV with the speakers on so they can hear, then they think I'm just listening to aliens, which, maybe I am. I don't know.
Who knows, right?
Yeah.
Red Redditor asks if you have any favorite music or favorite artists, or a favorite artist.
Wow. Music, huh? This is my life. Music teacher, performer, DJ. I wish I had my camera situated so you could see on the classroom. on my classroom wall, I have 15 to 20 autographs from different artists that were sent to for the kids here at school. I love Bass Nectar. As far
Wait,
as
if the school's on fire, you can save one autograph. Which one do you save?
Woo, man. Dang. School's on fire. Who do I save?
You have time for one.
Okay, I'm gonna save the Bass Nectar vinyl LP, and I'm sorry to Aaron Tippin and Jason Mraz and Earth, Wind and Fire in Chicago and Doobie Brothers and Nitty Gritty Dirt Band and Luke Bryan. Who else I got over there? Dan Tominski. I'm sorry to all you guys. The reason why I'd say Bass Nectar, if you don't know who Bass Nectar is, he's the EDM guy. I actually got on an AMA with him on Reddit because I use one of his songs to teach kids at school, and it's like super aggressive song called Upside Down. I mean, it's just an awesome track, but it breaks down 30-second notes, and it makes it easy for me to show kids subdivision and everything like that. He sent me a signed vinyl record, right? That's everything else was an 8x10 picture from the other artist, but I got a signed vinyl record by him. I could go on and on about music, but I do love EDM stuff, but I also dig like Maynard Ferguson, who's a trumpet player. I mean, I'm into Snarky Puppy, which is kind of a jazz fusion thing. They're based, I think, in Brooklyn now. Oh my gosh, it just goes on and on. I like electro swing music, which seems to be kind of like a Euro thing. So where they take the vintage sounds of the 1920s type of era swing music and then set it to an electronic beat. I think that's super cool stuff. I like country. I like Red Dirt. I like all the, just a whole host of things. I like movie soundtrack stuff. It's so hard to narrow down what I'm into, but yeah. So it's just a wide world out there.
All right. User Loadzeeder asks or writes, we all know that you work in the US public school system, so it seems that extending some of your ETH Raider mission to your real world job would naturally follow. Is blockchain a current or future topic for your school's curriculum?
No, it's not. And here's why. What's funny is I can talk to the kid, and I've talked to my kids in the classroom, and I've kind of explained blockchain, and I've kind of showed them what, Etherscan looks like. These are, fifth graders, and it's almost intuitive in the way that they understand it. I tried to organize a question and answer session, much like what we're doing now. I tried to organize that through my old principal, and they heard the word Bitcoin and they immediately shut it down. They don't know, not because of bad press of Bitcoin, it's because of ignorance. And they're just ignorant as to what it could do. I tried to give them a 50,000 foot view. They just didn't want to have anything to do with it. And I think, was there a follow-up question there about that?
There were a few. I can just read them and then you can answer.
Yeah.
He asked 3 questions. So that was the first one, if it's a current or future topic in the school's curriculum. Then the second one was, do you think educators in general have good awareness of the increasing impacts of blockchain and distributed ledger technology on society and are ready to prepare students for that? And then he asked if there are specific use cases for blockchain technology in school administration.
This is something I've been thinking about for a long time. So I'm going to address the first thing. In my personal experience in my school, which is just an elementary school, it wasn't really very warmly received. I'm not going to assume anything about the high school. I'm not going to assume anything about the neighboring school districts, but I have a feeling that if you are in a room with 100 people and I'm in a room with 100 people, you and me are probably the only two in the whole room that could even have a conversation like we're having right now and understand what each other's talking about. Blockchain is missing in public education in the United States, and I don't know how that's going to change. And the funniest thing is because as educators with STEM and, the science, technology, all the requirements, at least in the United States, are that we're supposed to be teaching these types of things. It's not even on the radar. It's just not even on the radar, at least in my area. It may be different in another part of the United States, but the mantra of education since the beginning of time. I remember my 7th grade science teacher says, you're going to be doing jobs that don't even exist yet. And now it's like we're supposed to train kids for the real world for jobs that haven't even been invented yet, for use cases that haven't been. This is exactly what we're talking about. And it's not being addressed. It's being kind of swiped under the rug. And it's probably has a lot to do with, stuff like Silk Road kind of put a big black eye on the space early on as far as Bitcoin goes. Now, a use case. I'm going to take a drink of coffee. This is something that I have been thinking about for a long time. And it's one of these deals where you can have a great idea. Now go build it. Oh, yeah. Easier said than done. So imagine Bob and Alice enroll in kindergarten. And then they are given tokens based on how they did on math, tokens how they do in reading, tokens how they behave in the classroom. They're all different colors. Okay. But then those tokens could be redeemed for prizes from the treasure chest. But meanwhile, what's happening is that it's kind of like putting a blockchain of their grades and everything together, but not just their grades, but also their social. Also, a note could be written along with one of the tokens and put in their pot. Then they move on to first grade, and those tokens develop all the way through till they graduate in high school, which at that point, those different colors of tokens could represent a variety of things, not just core scores on a thing, but social aptitude, all special projects, community things that these kids have done. So then a college could look at the total picture of the student that they're getting. Those tokens could then be redeemed sort of in a way for scholarship money, or at least be a good, accurate reflection of more than just the grade on the test. So when you're looking at the whole person, there's so many things you could tokenize in a school district that kind of can travel along with the kid from year to year. The token system, like I said, with like a treasure box in the classroom, is that, somebody did a really good job. Well, then the next teacher will see that, oh, this kid they can really do well in this type of area in the classroom as far as cooperating with others or what have you. Now you got a school-aligned treasure box system or a store set up that kids can go shopping with it. And they all are using pretty much one-to-one iPads, whatever. They could even have their own kind of wallet. You teach them how to be good stewards of what they've earned. You're teaching them about, checks and balances and everything else to where, how they behave can be translated into some real dollars in terms of like the Booster Club providing some of these treasure chest, or the store could be funded by the school where kids could go buy a pencil, or they could buy some paper, or just they get to go get a treat because, or whatever. But they can hold on to it from year to year to year to year. And then as they grow, what those tokens represent, it can be far beyond the way it started in kindergarten. This is a real record, because right now all teacher looks at is last year's grades. And then, they don't get to see other things that can be piled on to a kid for doing, good things in their community. But then they also get to be their own bank. So, I don't know. This is just kind of a use case I was thinking of a long time ago. And again, it's just another idea. There's a million ideas, but the developers are the ones that are, getting paid the big bucks to come up with stuff like that. And I could see something like that being a good use case in education system. I think eventually it will be someday.
I was thinking about this with my cousins. I did this for a while until it got too expensive, but I basically offered them a 10% interest rate on the money they would save. So of course the bank doesn't give that. So I told them, like, you can save whatever you want to save and I'll give you a 10% annual return rate. And it was wonderful to see how much money they were actually saving. And then after a year, one had saved like $500. It's like, wow, I just got $50 for doing nothing. It's like, yeah, well, it's not for doing nothing. It's for postponing your gratification. And that's how it works to some extent. And I was thinking it would be so much easier to put that in a smart contract, or to use pocket money and be something and just work out whatever. It could be like an IRA system. It's like, okay, you get $10 per week or whatever it might be. If you save 3, I'll add another 50% to that sum, and then whatever it might be. And actually with things like DAI coming up, well, we'll see how easy they turn out to use for payments. But those kind of things are actually quite nice to introduce them to blockchain technology and then actually have a real world use case. And so that was just an idea that came to mind.
You know what blew me away about DAI on that subject was the Gitcoin website where you can fund different projects using DAI. And as long as you have DAI in your wallet, it'll just automatically debit it.
Hmm.
So you could say, I want to do 5 DAI per month for 12 months. And as long as you have 60 DAI in your wallet, it'll just automatically contribute like Patreon, and it's stable. And
Yeah.
that's a mind blow to me. So in other words, instead of giving them a volatile changing asset like Bitcoin or Ethereum, right? And instead of giving them that where the price could drop out, the next ICOs are going to be, I think, are going to be done with a lot more of these type of, instruments.
Have you seen those Ether cards? I think it's ether.cards, the website. So I bought that for two of my cousins, like €5 worth, but I bought it for Christmas 2017. So I bought it at like, it was €1,100. It was almost all-time high, and it was like €5, and today it's like 50 cents or whatever. So it wasn't the best thing or the best introduction. It's like this, you just gave us something that just lost 90% of its value. It's like, yeah,
Right.
maybe give some dye that they can actually use, or in some extent is a little bit more a better introduction to blockchain tech. Okay, let's there's two. I have a few more questions from two people, and then I have like the rapid fire round to wrap up. Is that okay for you?
Perfect.
Because we've been recording for a while, but we're almost there. So, user Special X asks, what do you think about technical analysis, and are you using TA yourself?
No, I don't use TA. I actually read a technical analysis book. I got through about half of it, and I appreciate TA, to the extent that some people were pretty good with it. I'm not. It doesn't work for me, and I didn't ever get into the weeds enough to use it, so I'm not going to have a real strong opinion on it. It seems to work for some people, but when you're looking at a chart right now that does the BART and the reverse BART, I don't know like how you apply TA to something that volatile. I've always kind of felt that TA might be more beneficial for something like a Forex traded market where you've got trillions of dollars daily volume rather than, these crazy, these notched out type of graphs. So yeah, I don't really use it.
Another question of his or hers, I don't know. When do you expect Ether to hit all-time high again? And do you expect it at all? Supposing or assuming you expect it at all?
Again, price projections. I'm notoriously wrong. I was wrong when I thought that 100 would be a good top, and I was really wrong thinking that 400 might be a bottom off of this drop.
I guess we were all wrong. I read some old posts of yours when we dropped under $800, and so many people wrote like, oh, anything under 800 is a steal, and then a few months later it's like under $100.
And I've been putting my money where my mouth is. I've been buying.
Yeah,
I'm buying.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how to put it. It happens. I was wrong. I'll continue to be wrong. So when do I think next all-time high will be? I originally was thinking that January 1st, 2020 was going to be approaching some kind of a top. I kind of felt like, this bull market should last 2 years, which is ridiculous. I shouldn't be thinking that way. That being said, I think it's not entirely out of the question. In the next few months, we could see a pop, but yeah, it may take 2 to 3 years to get back to an all-time high again. I think mainstream adoption of one DApp, just one DApp, might do some real good, and user adoption on mobile wallets that can also interface with CDPs and do the stuff with, on mobile wallets rather than always on a desktop, kind of making that an easier thing because not everybody even has the ability to get on a computer. I think anything third world country, with the mobility on mobile, like if Android is pumping out wallets now on Samsung devices, I think your adoption is going to come sooner rather than later. So I guess if I was just to throw a dart on the wall, let's say probably July 2022 would be a pretty safe window for an all-time high again. And hopefully, here's the thing. I think once we bust 1,000, I think we'll be off to the races again, and the all-time high will go by pretty quick. And from there, who knows? But yeah, You should write this down. July 4th, Independence Day, 2022. You know, we'll see what happens.
Maybe we'll have a third Independence Day movie by then as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be funny. At all-time high. Actually, what I find fascinating is the collateralization rate of the MakerDAO system. So whenever ETH goes up, let's say with 20% today, or let's say it goes up to $200, the collateralization ratio in the system is so much higher. So it really incentivizes people to take out DAI and go long on Ether because you have so much more. So I think the safe, most people keep it around 250%, 300%. And at least I notice myself when it goes up to 400, 500%, I feel like, okay, let's take out some DAI, buy some more Ether, or spend it however you want to spend it. But I guess most people use it to go long on Ether. And it just incented, you see like 5, 6, 700%. And I'm like, yeah, I can take out a little bit of DAI, buy some more Ether. And just those upticks there, they just put so much more selling pressure on the ETH market. So let's see where that goes.
It might be a feedback loop. You know?
Yeah, but in both directions. It's like rocket fuel in both directions. If it goes up, it shoots up. If it goes down, it shoots down.
Yeah.
Final question from Special X. What do you think about the comeback of Science Guy and his predictions? Do you share the cult?
No, I don't share the cult, but I appreciate it just the same. And I'm glad that people find they find fortune, they find humor in it. I don't have a real strong opinion about it. I like a good meme, and that dude really fills a void for a lot of people. And he, a lot of people give him a lot of credit. A lot of people give him crap. He's here. It's cool. It's a distraction. It's kind of made for a nice distraction off of the whole situation with the developers lately. So I definitely welcome a good meme. Just it doesn't matter whether I like it or not. I definitely support the community's desire to have it.
Just for people who don't know what we were talking about or who might watch this way in the future, so today's March 15th of March, and I think he made a prediction like 3 or 4 days ago or whatever, and the thread got like 500 or 600 replies, which was very funny. And then he
it was the most upvoted. It was the most upvoted post maybe this year. Yeah, besides some of the donut polls.
Silver, gold, platinum, everything. And then he made 2 predictions. Bitcoin would start to go up on April 11th, if I'm not mistaken, and Ether would start its reversal on April 24th of 2019. So we'll see.
Well, there you go.
All right.
And
yeah,
it'll be interesting, and that's what we love. The prediction dates are always fun.
Yeah. There's one final ETH trader. I think the username is Kathian PD. She or he has some questions about Kansas. So where in Southeast? She writes where in SE Kansas, but I suppose this is Southeast Kansas. Along the old 169 lies Lola, Humboldt, Chanute. I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right.
Okay, yeah, Chanute, Iola, Humboldt are on old 169 highway. Kathy, I grew up, I've been to all those towns. I actually DJ prom every year in Humboldt, Kansas. I just drove through Iola not too long ago. So Southeast Kansas is very rural, right? Very rural. It's, you have basically in the state of Kansas, you have Kansas City and you have Wichita, Topeka, Lawrence, and then the rest of the state, so, and Hayes, I guess. But yeah, so I grew up, she'll know these towns if she's from down there. I grew up on the 75 South corridor. So Burlington, Yates Center, Buffalo, Altoona, and Neodesha. All right. So yeah, Neodesha, Kansas is where my hometown is.
She asked, do you remember, or he or she, for whatever reason, I think it's a she, but do you remember the area's invasion by Amazon? Yeah, it suddenly made small-town Kansans cool to be aligned front or center with raging new technology. Do you remember that?
Absolutely. I went to Coffeyville Community College in 1994, and at that time, Amazon built a warehouse out there. And that warehouse, if you've never seen an Amazon warehouse, they're ginormous. But the one in Coffeyville was one of the first. I don't know if it was the first, but it was one of the first warehouses that they had. And at the time, I remember thinking, good God, that's a big building. What is it? It was very nondescript. And then I noticed Amazon on it. And I'm like, what the heck is this? So we're talking about 1994 internet. and these people were selling books. In my mind, I'm like, who the heck goes on the internet to buy a book? Right? It just didn't make any sense to me. I mean, there's a library right over there. There's a bookstore over there. We weren't even in the real age of buying merchandise online, let alone used books. I thought, how silly is this? And boy, howdy, look at where they are now. So yeah, I remember it was a big deal that there's this company from California or wherever building this huge warehouse in rural southeast Kansas. And I saw the facility myself, but I think it has since closed now. But I'm assuming they must have thought it was, a centrally located place to do it. But they just built all new warehouses outside Gardner, Kansas, and it's just mind blowing how big these buildings are.
Did it spur your devotion to tech? She or he asks as well. Like you mentioned,
not that specifically, but I think I had a really cool experience in high school, and even though we were in rural southeast Kansas, I've graduated with 48 kids in my class, and we had this guy that worked in our school. His name is now Dr. Martin. It was Mr. Martin then, but Dr. Martin he had a big push for getting technology into our school system, and we were one of the first connected schools to the internet in the whole state of Kansas. And I remember sitting there it was like Windows, not 95, it was 3.0 or whatever, and it was like jumping through hoops to get on this thing called the internet, because even some of the browser-based stuff, you had to type in IP addresses to get to where you needed to go. And I remember seeing bulletin board systems, and having the ability to download a song on a 56K modem through a telephone line, going through all those motions of, oh, well, I'm going to start this download for a single song, but it won't be all the way downloaded until tomorrow, and just all that stuff. I just loved it. My dad and mom always put a computer in the house, but we always had to rent a computer. We didn't buy them outright because they were like $3,000 and you could rent a computer. And then I remember looking in this big, huge book of basic coding and typing in all these command lines just so I could get a line to dance across the screen. I was like, this is it for me, man. But coding really stopped for me there. But yeah, a lot of this age of technology was spurred on by just being in a good school environment, trying to learn it.
All right, Jeremiah, let's start wrapping up. I have some few rapid fire questions. Your answer can be as short or long as you want. So here goes. Old Reddit or the redesigned Reddit?
Old Reddit.
Hall & Oates or Fleetwood Mac?
Oh, shoot. Oh my gosh. I'm going to go with Fleetwood Mac.
If you could wave a magic wand and tomorrow you could either choose between having fully functional proof of stake or $3,000 per ETH.
Proof of stake.
East Coast or West Coast?
If I had to. East Coast.
Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash?
If I had to. Oh, gosh. Oh. For the record, I haven't owned anything with Bitcoin in the name of it. Let's see. I went all in on Ethereum in January 2016 or December 2015. I haven't owned a single Bitcoin since then. I guess I would just go with Bitcoin just because.
Europe or Asia?
Oh, I've been to Europe. I want to go back. I want to visit Asia, but I think I would go to Europe.
You go on a dinner date. You can choose between Roger Ver or Craig Wright.
Roger Ver.
Dinner date. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do Bitcoin Cash, but I would like to talk to him.
Dinner date with Vlad Zamfir or Joe Lubin?
I've already invited Vlad to the fire pit. I actually have. And he responded on Twitter. He said it's a non-zero chance. So there's a chance.
There's a chance.
So Vlad.
Vlad. All right. Final question. thinking about the next 12 months? Another year like 2017 or another one like 2018?
Price aside, I think this year is going to feel like 2017 with the rise of the technology within it. I think it's really, it just feels more exciting than ever, even though people are hungry and people are having a hard time with, struggling to stay afloat or whatever. Just like a lot of investors got wiped out, I think a lot of companies are going to get wiped out, and we're going to see the fruits of the ones that are surviving get those developers from the ones that aren't, and we're going to see better, quicker development as far as some of the DApps and scaling and stuff like that. So yeah, not in terms of price, but in terms of technology, I'm very excited.
All right, then I'm completely through with my questions. I mean, this is the very first time we're doing this, so I don't know if there's anything left I left out or I forgot to ask, or that you want to add to this. I would just say, for the people listening or reading or watching, give whatever feedback you have for Jeremiah and for myself, how we can move on with this series, because I really, really enjoy doing it. We talked for an hour and 35 minutes.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I thought we would talk for like 30 minutes, and I didn't go to the toilet before we started, so my bladder is really telling me to wrap up and to take my phone, check CoinMarketCap, but at least go to the toilet. No, I'm just kidding. But anyone who has any feedback for us, just let us know. And I mean, from my side or from this side, it's wonderful being part of this community. Wonderful talking to you finally. And so, highly enjoyed it. But I look forward to any kind of feedback, because I have no idea what I'm doing. So that's all from my side.
They're going to say, don't interview anybody that talks and listens to himself as much as that guy. That's what they're going to be saying that about. Like, that guy talks way too long. Hey, man, it's a real pleasure. I'm glad we could get this together. And I hope some of you guys that are in the community as well, jump on sometime, put yourself out there, and it's a good conversation. And I appreciate it, man. This is a lot of fun. Big hugs from Kansas City, my man.
All right. See you, Jeremiah. Enjoy your weekend.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye.